only two members, actually the two original members of one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time.
That's a heavy remark.
Actually, it's true, though. And it must be interesting for you guys, and we haven't even introduced you yet, and we will properly, but since you said that's a heavy remark, let's jump right into this point. And Jerry, a fellow who's with you, the head of Rock A&R from your record company, and I were talking before about over the last 10 years, you've gone through a whole evolution in terms of the reaction that the radio people have given you and that the rock press has given you. And now here in 1984, KISS can actually claim that the whole generation of American rock and roll fans and international rock and roll fans grew up to you and now look back upon you, and fortunately you're still current and happening, so it makes it even sweeter, but can look back at you as where they, had their good old days, and it's a whole different perspective that everybody has about KISS. So now that we know who it is, we have with us, we have Paul Stanley, who is the singer, you're the wailer, right?
The wailer.
The lead wailer and guitar player, and Gene Simmons, and of course Gene is the bass player, and a fellow who, I'm looking at the picture here on your world tour, you still have a rather lengthy tongue.
It's my job, Mike. Very important, very important.
And I'm sitting here with them, and they're not, we promised our listeners that you would be on the air here without any of the old makeup, and
they can tell.
And of course they can.
They absolutely can.
Let's start with that right away, the makeup situation. You play now with your faces out there, full front, and everybody sees you, and they know what you look like. How did that change come about?
I think what happened was, it's not something we really thought about for a while. It's something that you kind of feel kind of welling up inside you. I think by the time we did Creatures, we were beginning to feel that maybe it was time to leave it behind and keep going forward. Sometimes even a band will begin to accept something as being, this is the way it is. KISS wears makeup, or you wear platform boots, or you do this, or you do that. I think the only thing that KISS should ever be is the most exciting, the most visual, the most hard-working band around. And I think we all began to feel that maybe the makeup wasn't really as important as it once was and didn't need to be there. I mean, at this point, everybody who's seen the show says the show's better. When you make the right decision, everything works for the best. I think we're 10 times what we were before it.
That's great. So KISS is indeed, for those who may be in their 40s or those who may be in their early teens who don't have a real perspective on what you've done for the last 10 years, KISS is in fact right there at the forefront of powerful rock, of heavy metal rock, and you exist. You're not
certainly do. A lot of people think every year, in fact, we keep hearing it, that it's our last tour. We just... There's a recent magazine that just came out, a popular rock magazine, and there was a big article on the band and how our newest record, Look It Up, is our 16th gold and is well on its way to becoming our 13th platinum, something like that. I think I've got the numbers right.
You have 11 platinum records in the U.S. alone. You've had, prior to this one, 15 gold albums.
So there you go.
300,000 people have just seen you on a South American tour,
wow,
which is very interesting, which is what I hear. I mean, you had a successful tour of South America.
Yeah. Those were just in 3 shows. We did Rio for 165,000, Sao Paulo for 135,000, and Belo Horizonte was a small gig. It was 60,000.
That was the intimate one.
That's the small club gig,
yes,
right?
The family show.
That's funny, though, that so many people would come out to see you. How do they know about KISS in South America?
I think KISS really appeals to everybody around the world, basically because rock and roll appeals to everybody around the world. You're talking an international language. When people say, well, maybe it was something of the 70s, or maybe it was something, the Beatles were something of the 60s or whatever. I don't think that music ever dates itself. Rock and roll, the things that people are feeling today, restlessness or needing to party. Everybody wants to party and have a good time for the same reason today as they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and will in 20 years from today. You got bosses, you got teachers, and everybody's got to let off steam because nobody likes being told what to do all the time.
And that aspect of rock and roll is basically timeless, as you've pointed out. We base our radio station on that. That's why we...
That's right. You don't listen to your bosses, and that's why you're sitting here?
We don't listen to our bosses. Seriously, what we do, though, is we respect the rock and roll that was always hip, cool, happening. rebellious. And that goes all the way back to the 50s, and it still holds up. If you can still listen to Heartbreak Hotel and get that feeling.
People asked the same thing recently. This is our 18th record, and people ask us why all of a sudden, are people still buying the records and coming to the shows? I mean, why is it? Why is it that heavy metal or loud music or the kind of music that we play still exists? And I think it goes back to something you just said, which is that it doesn't have so much to do with fashion. It doesn't have to do with whether or not you've got an English accent, have blonde hair, and play synthesizers, or whether or not it's a mohawk or not. It has very little to do with fashion. I think it's a staple American music. It's got to do with, it's more honest, deals with rock and roll lifestyle. A lot of the songs that we wind up recording and using on the records are songs that we actually write on the road. Something that happens. You meet a girl, she claims it's your baby, you say it's not.
Right. Well, your records
whatever happened.
Well, your lyrics are very raunchy or earthy.
They're honest, Mike. They're honest. That's the word.
We I don't know. We tend to write what's around us, and I think that's why people relate to us. I think that the rock bands that cut themselves off from the public and put out albums and tour every 4 years are not playing rock and roll, because unless your feet are in the gutter, you don't know what's going on out there.
And his feet right now.
And my feet, folks, were in the gutter before.
Right, in Studio G, right, halfway out into the gutter. But that is very true, and it's really nice to see, you still doing it as you are. And I think you're getting more popular now. I think you went through a rough period there around 79, 80.
I think so.
But then again, that was a rough period for everybody.
Everybody
in the music business.
But it's ironic that it depends where you look at it. When we really first hit big time here and we're selling 3 million and upwards on a series of records, the rest of the world didn't even know about the band. When we were huge in America, we went over and did like 2,000 seaters all over Europe, which is a successful tour. And then around 70, right around the time you were talking about, towards the end of the 70s, early 80s, we went down all of a sudden to Australia and started doing 2 days, sets of 2 days in soccer stadiums where people who had never seen the band came. So when we were possibly less, the glass is half empty instead of half full in America and the rest of the world, it was huge, bigger than ever before.
Well, this is very wise of you to be international, as well as, obvious thing to do if you have the following around the world, to exploit it. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. Americans are becoming increasingly isolated, not just in rock and roll, but general culture, politically, in terms of all the things happening around the world. We still have that attitude that this is the only place, and the rest of the world is backward.
I think the best thing about traveling, and everybody really should do it, is you find out that the only barrier between you and somebody in Sweden is the language. If you really get past that, everybody's the same everywhere.
It's true.
And
girls taste good all over the world.
So
it's not just California girls.
Very good.
California girls taste real good.
Well, also
they got that
East
vitamin
Coast
D from the
here.
sunshine. So you just got to lick it up.
Now, Lick It Up, this record features a new Kiss that old guys like me remember. The four of you, of course. There was a fellow by the name of Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. Peter played drums, I believe, and Ace was another guitar player.
Right, guitar player.
The guitar. Now, what happened? How did this suddenly become a new Kiss?
Slowly. It really... There are some people who thought that this is the new version of Kiss, which, I mean, when a band's been around for 10 years, you have to expect certain changes. It's almost like an evolution. So I think when Peter wanted to get married and wanted to stay home, then it was time for him to leave the band. He wanted to have a kid. Those kind of things are fine, but they don't work in a rock and roll band.
A member of Kiss wanted to live a normal life.
A normal life. To me, home is a Hilton, a Holiday Inn, or a Hyatt. The 3 H's. So I think at that point, Peter had to leave. Peter realized it. And that was 3 years ago. Yeah. So Eric's been in the band 3 years. He's done 3 albums with us, probably done about 200 shows with us.
Eric Carr.
Yeah. And Eric's an amazing drummer, great songwriter. Besides writing stuff with us, he wrote the music for All Hell's Breaking Loose. He also co-wrote a song on Bryan Adams' album. So he's done really wonders for us.
So you're saying he's a solid musician.
He's a solid American.
A solid
citizen.
American. A good citizen.
He's going to vote and everything.
He speaks excellent New Yorkese.
Now, Vinnie Vincent, tell us about him, this other new member of the band, relatively new member.
Vinnie really started off towards the end of Creatures. We were in the middle of recording Creatures. Ace had a bad car accident, which literally totaled his car, and he's lucky to get out of there alive. His car went from being a four-wheeler to an accordion.
He wasn't in the car when it crashed,
no,
but his car had an accident.
And so he had some bad internal injuries. We didn't get too close to it. It was a private matter, and combined with the fact that he was married and had a baby, he decided, along with his doctors, that it was best not to keep touring. And, you know, every time something comes up, you've got to decide for yourself whether or not one person is going to dictate whether or not 3 or 4 other people are going to have a, you know, the lifestyle that they want to have. And for me, that means hot and cold running girls.
That's it. That's your raison d'etre.
That's what it's all about.
How have the two of you, 10 years of touring around the world, you hear the stories of how rough the rock and roll lifestyle is, particularly on the road, on your body, on your mind. The two of you seem to be very healthy. You're clear-eyed. You're intelligent.
They're inside.
How have you kept your health and your sanity?
It's really not that hard. You know, it's really not that hard. I mean, maybe for some people what we do is real tough. We really have a great time. This is like, it's a big party. I mean, we get a chance to travel, we get a chance to meet a lot of people. It's not that tough. Somebody's got to do it, and it's going to be me.
Someone has to do it. But I mean, you do employ a certain level of discipline in your life. You're not.
Yeah. When we say that we go on at 9:30, we go on at 9:30, and people know that we mean what we say. Also, when we play exotic places like Los Angeles, it gives our record company a good excuse to fly out to Los Angeles and see the sights. Our friend is here from New York.
Where is home for you? Where is home for you?
Really, we're all from New York City. We've lived in L.A. at times. So L.A., I was talking to somebody last night, and I was telling him being in L.A. is like being home. It gives me a chance to get out the car and just kind of
dust off the old numbers,
you know, and have a good time, because L.A. really is second home. I mean, we've all lived out here for a year or two at a time.
Well, no matter where you are, people have heard of Kiss, but the image of Kiss still is of those 4 flamboyant guys with the makeup and the wild stage set. Are you recognized often in public at this point now?
Aren't you Paul Stanley?
Yeah, we were always recognized, but more so now. But I mean, the things that people expect from Kiss are still there. The show is more energetic, is crazier than it ever was. People used to say, Jesus, you know, how do you keep up this energy level? It's much more energetic now. I mean, it's okay when people say, you know, you started heavy metal or whatever they want to say. That's all well and good, but if it means that you're a machine that's rusted and needs oiling, then you might as well be put in a museum. I mean, this isn't like a nostalgia trip. This is the heavyweight champ.
How do you know, the old eye of the tiger thing, where you mentioned that, where you have to, in order to really perform rock and roll, you have to feel it. You can't just...
And you've got to be a playing band that goes out there and proves it every night.
Now, you guys have made a lot of money over the years. You obviously are able to live a comfortable life. How have you been able to maintain that feeling, that hunger, that
We
energy?
don't do this for money. We never did it for money. I mean, you can't deny that that's great. The money coming is great. But we didn't start this for money, because when we started, people were telling us it was never going to work. So if we had been listening to them, we would have been doing a different kind of music to begin with. So money was never the reason. Playing was the reason. Girls were the reason. Parties were the reason. This life is what... If people say, why do you look so well? It's because this life agrees with us. This is what we were cut out to do.
So it's not necessarily true that after a certain amount of years and a certain amount of success, a human being cannot maintain the posture of a rock star and a rock star.
How much you love it. You know, some people wind up doing something they love for who knows. I remember first growing up with the Rolling Stones and hearing things and reading things about how, you know, don't trust anybody over 30. And then, you know, hope I die before I get old, and all that stuff. Of course, yeah. And there are a couple of bands, maybe you can count on one hand, who have been around a long time and who still kick it out. Maybe better, maybe not, than some of the newer bands. It's how much you love something that, you know, that makes you good or bad, not how long you've done it.
And that, of course, comes across to the fans. They know right away whether you're into it or not.
You can have a legend and a tradition and a reputation. When people go to see you, you got to prove it. There's nobody standing in your boots.
Nobody wants an oldies show. This isn't an oldies show.
Right.
I mean, if this was Kiss takes you through the 70s or something, we'd both be home, because we have no interest in any of that stuff.
Right.
We've got a history that we're real proud of, but the present and the future is at least as important as the past.
Do you play Beth at your concerts?
We play checkers at our concerts.
No, we don't.
No.
Beth, Beth and I Was Made for Loving You and one or two other songs that we've done, we're always more sort of watch what we can do, almost anything we want to do, but we choose to do this. It was more almost of a dare. Somebody would come up and say, well, you guys, all you do is bash guitars and make fat women lose weight. It's just getting to a real cool thing, and how you blew it. All you guys do is...
and we hit him with a guitar.
And we hit him with a guitar. All you guys do is smash guitars and make fat women lose their weight, 100 feet from the stage. That part is true. But that's what we choose to do. If we wanted to do ballads, we could do albums full of that stuff. It just doesn't make your heart pump.
All right. Well, at the time that this conversation will be heard will be Saturday morning and Monday morning. We're going to play this twice, this discussion. So you will have already played before a packed house at the Long Beach Arena Friday night. For the sake of those listening, we're taping this on Friday afternoon, so you've yet to play there. I know the house is going to be full and everybody's very excited. It's a KMET program. We're behind you all the way. What, though, for those who didn't catch you, what is your show like now? Now, I remember in the 70s, you took theatrics and flamboyance to their highest level. Where is it at now? What can a person going to a Kiss concert expect?
It's hard. It's like trying to tell somebody what does milk taste like? What does whiskey taste like? It's hard to say that. If you figure that every band that's on the road now is in some way a copy of us, think of the best thing that they do, and we're better.
Well, that's confident.
Somebody else said, well, what's the show like on the tour? What can we expect? If you say the world's World War II or World War III or a blast or
a nuclear explosion, without any negative.
All we know is that during the blackouts between songs, the audience glows.
We give lobotomies with sound. It's just, we're having a real good time. It's everything that anybody could expect it to be. What I was saying about other bands, I really think that they can't be a better Kiss than Kiss. And a lot of bands may model themselves after us, but they're not us.
Right.
And
when the original is still around and doing it, it's sometimes unnecessary to have a replacement.
Incidentally, that's fine with me. I don't have any problem with any band getting their influences from anywhere. If it's from us or from Zeppelin or from the Stones, doesn't matter. Ultimately these bands, whoever it is, new bands, older bands that took some of maybe changed their stuff and all of a sudden are sort of Kiss-like, they really have to be able to be good all by themselves. You can be influenced by whoever you want, but if you're not good by yourself, it's just not going to work.
Right.
And it's just, we take that as the highest form of flattery when anybody uses big signs in back of them or bombs or studs in leather or anything.
Motley Crue comes to mind as a band that they love you. Somebody told me recently they interviewed them at their concert, and they were listening to Kiss records in their dressing room before going on.
We took them out on our last tour.
It's real. It's real great, and it's real, gratifying is a corny word, but when you realize that there's bands that are doing essentially what you were doing a few years ago, and it's working, it only makes you feel that much better, because obviously you were doing something either ahead of your time or something that still holds up today.
Right.
And, we wish them all the best. And Motley Crue, we brought out with us on some dates in L.A. last time.
What a show.
Yeah, if you're good, go out there and give the audience 100%, because we want the audience to get everything that they deserve. So we don't want crappy bands on the show. We want the best. We've taken out Priest when they started. We took out AC/DC, Nugent, Iron Maiden.
So you've played a role directly, not just as musical influences, but you've actually played a personal role in helping a lot of the latter-day rock and roll
We usually pick
bands.
the bands that open up for us.
It's real funny when you go and see these bands after the tour ends, and you go, wait a minute, I know that move, or wait a minute, I know what he's saying. Isn't that what I say at this point in the song? And it's great, because the audience, all that matters is that the audience wins out in the end. That's all we're doing it for.
Well, rock and roll is all connected anyway, otherwise it wouldn't be rock and roll.
We never said we were originals. Everybody's...
One thing leads to another. What was your youth? What were your youth like, Paul and Gene?
Zeppelin.
When you were kids?
You mean, who were we influenced by?
When you were kids, when you were 15, 20, 18, 17.
Stones, Who, Zeppelin, Beatles. But I think for me it was like Zeppelin and Jeff Beck group. You know, when Ronnie Wood and Rod Stewart, those two bands for me said, this is what you must follow this path. This is the way you're going.
Less music for me initially, more horror movies and sort of conceptual things, people that looked strange or acted weird or weren't like everybody else, and then rock and roll later.
Hence the combination there. I could see right there that the two influences, the theatrics, the bizarreness. Because bizarreness is a part of rock and roll. Have you noticed that the rock videos that are popular today are some of the most bizarre things going on? I think that's one of the secrets behind the popularity of them. Now that the rock videos are making their way under the guise of being music on a lot of VHF rather, television stations, you get a lot of old guys, you know, oh, Martha, look at this, there's music on television, and they're watching all the girls, and they're watching, I mean, this is really a way in which lots of, let's say, provocative scenes have made their way to primetime television.
Sex, we're talking about.
Yeah, sex, indeed, sex. Rock and roll has always been very sexy, and it has to be, doesn't it? I mean, that is the...
Well, it's really, I mean, the undercurrent of it is sex. I mean, that's where it starts.
On a musical level, in terms of just the instrumentation and the actual elements of musicianship, there's so many different things happening today. Again, we talk about our friend from New York, Jerry Jaffe, who's out here with you. He's sitting in the room, but he doesn't have a microphone, so we'll just let
without
him.
Any clothes,
he's got makeup on.
Yeah, he has the makeup, right? But we were talking about, you know, the mainstream, what the heck that means today. There's so many things that are within the mainstream. Do you find yourselves tempted to experiment as musicians with some of these other instruments? And
we've done that.
Sounds?
We've done that, and you know, when you do things like that, you got to realize you're going to confuse people. You know, and there were times when we felt we had to do certain things to get it out of our system. I think what's great, though, with music at this point is that there's so much music that falls into what they call rock, that everybody's got something they can listen to. Doesn't mean I want to listen to it, but it's great that you've got those guys with green hair and skinny ties playing synthesizers, and you got other people trying to blow up the stage, and you got girls with folk guitars. More power to all of them. As long as somebody's out there listening, that's what counts, as long as people are making music.
I also think it's important that everybody that does whatever it is that they do actually believes that that's, in other words, that you love what it is that you do. If you're a heavy metal nut at heart and you're doing something else, if you're playing synthesizer and that's not what you want to do, don't do it. It's just not as honest. And, you know, when we first started wearing heels and leather and studs and all this stuff, we did it because we were crazy about this stuff. We didn't care at all that everybody stopped wearing heels. Nobody was interested in... I mean, well, these guys are sadomasochists from New York, and we were called everything from Nazis to punks, which meant something else then.
Right, it did. It meant something.
Yeah, it was like a street...
Right,
kind of
leather punk.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like
Lou Reed, who was
like
sort of a cross. Interesting. Lou Reed there was right at the crossroads between what's today beyond punk and
he was right
heavy
in the
metal,
middle. And also poet, also like a street poet thing. But anyway, Lou will speak for himself when he comes on KMET soon, folks.
Yeah, right.
But you know, we didn't care. We didn't care that we were considered out of step or weird or out there. It doesn't matter because we were honest about it. And people thought we were out of our minds. We were an opening band. We'd get up on stage with the biggest amplifiers you ever saw on a huge sign. This was before bands hung signs on back of them.
That said, please clap.
That says, please clap. It's a big KISS logo, and everybody thought, well, you're crazy. Everybody knows that it's KISS. What do you need a big sign in back of you that flashes on and off? After we'd finish our set and the headline would come on, the sign would still be there. You know, and this thing would blind you when it would come on. So during blackouts, you'd see the name of the band in front of your eyes.
You really gotta be true to yourself.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. And we're not preachers, we're not philosophers, we're not telling anybody what to do. The only thing that's important is that everybody does what's in their heart. And that's the best advice anybody can give you.
That's what art is, and that's when it becomes art, as opposed to the other side of it. And that battle always goes on in rock and roll. You know, the purity of it, and the art of it, versus the conscience-less commerciality of it. It's a very fine line. How does it feel having had, I'm just thinking back as we're talking, all my memories are starting to bubble up. I remember Kiss comic books and Kiss cartoons and all that stuff from the 70s. You guys rose above yourselves. You became caricatures of your, it was bigger than you.
You could remove yourself almost and see a character. You know, I would see this guy in a comic book or on a phonograph or on a lunchbox or something.
Pinball machine.
A pinball machine. And I would say, oh, it's that guy. It's the guy in Kiss. It's Paul, the guy in Kiss. You could almost look at it with amazement and kind of detach yourself. So it was great. The only reason we ever put that stuff out in the first place was because people wanted it. It was never something that we were forcing on people because, I mean, there would be no purpose in that.
Well, I'm an old rock and roll pack rat, and I'm not, you know, your typical airheaded type person that you might think of as somebody who just reads comics. But I collect all that stuff because I think that's part of rock and roll, is the posters and the little paraphernalia and the pictures and the comics and or whatever else might come. I have boxes full that I've saved over the years, and I only regret that I didn't save everything. Because 20 years from now...
it captures a certain moment in your life.
Exactly.
And it's not just the record, it's the cover and the artwork and all the rest of that. But, you know, we had a choice at that point in either completely ignoring it and saying we don't want to do that stuff, and the bootleggers would still be doing it, and then you'd spend the rest of your life in court trying to protect your name, you know, which is the only thing you've got going for you. Or you had the choice of doing it yourself and trying to make sure that it was done well. And it's ironic, you know, every time we try to do something, from carrying huge signs with us on the road that said Kiss, to having fan clubs, to all the merchandising, all this stuff, it's interesting that slowly but surely the English bands, American bands start being...
Kiss Army originally was our way of having our fans be in touch with us. And yet everybody back then was saying how corny it was. Well, there's not a band around today that doesn't have a fan club.
Right.
We used to put out magazines where we'd write, you know, personal messages just available to the fans that we'd send through the mail, just as a sort of a keeping in touch. Here's what we're doing. Here's where we are. And, you know, the letters we'd get back would be just the best. You know, that's when you read the letters and when you meet the fans, and you know, that's the entire thing. That's the whole ball.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you have that feeling for your audience and for your music, and I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this conversation, because we've been letting everybody know about it for a long time that you were coming down here. I'm sure that they're going, we weren't fans for nothing, because your sincerity is obvious and admirable. I wish
who made us. You know, when we first started on tour, it's true, it's not a complaint, it's just an observation that radio and sometimes the press would really not pay very much attention to the band for whatever reason. Radio and press had their own reasons for playing what they wanted to play and paying attention to who they wanted to pay attention to. The people that made us are the people, are the fans. And we would go out there night after night, and the people that bought all those records, 18 of them, were the fans, with or without radio airplay or magazine articles.
Paul, you were quoted in something I read recently. I think it was you saying a lot of the critics that used to put you down are not even working anymore.
Sure. I mean, you know, these little people with big mouths, you know, who either really abuse their authority, whether it's writing critiques in newspapers that have nothing to do with the concert, but more their perception of what art is supposed to be. Most of those people who started out saying that we wouldn't last 3 months, I don't know what they're doing anymore, but we're still doing this, and it's 10 or 11 years later.
That's the proof of the pudding, as they say. That's it, right there. You're still doing it. 10 years. It's amazing, and it's great. Look, I'm not going to keep you long now because you're going to be performing tonight, and just the fact that you came here today, and again, folks, we're talking in the past, where this was taped on Friday. Just the fact that you came here on the afternoon of a big concert is very nice of you to do that.
Thank you.
So, Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, we welcome you to KMET, and we hope we're playing Kiss records for many years to come. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.